Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one of the most emotional and daring anonymous confessions you'll ever hear. A woman goes to a quiet beach house expecting peace, but a surprise she never asked for awakens parts of her she thought were gone forever. Settle in, breathe deep, this is a mature story for grown listeners only. Let's begin. I never meant to follow her. My mother had told me weeks before that she needed a break, that she wanted to slip away to the coast for a few days, just to breathe. There was something in her voice, something fragile but burning, that made me uneasy. So when she packed light and left for the small beach house we rarely used anymore, I waited until she was a few hours ahead, then drove down myself. I didn't announce it. I didn't call. I told myself I was simply being protective, that I only wanted to check the place and leave. But the truth was darker, messier. I wanted answers, because for months, I'd sensed a shift in her. A glow that didn't come from rest. A blush that didn't come from the sun. A softness in her smile, and a sharpness in her silences. Something, or someone, had changed her. And she hadn't asked for any company that weekend. She hadn't asked for anything. When I reached the beach house, the late evening light had already dipped into that amber tone that made the windows glow like warmed honey. Her car was parked at an angle, crooked, rushed. That wasn't like her. She was careful, always. Deliberate, even when upset. I got out quietly and walked toward the house, the ocean wind pushing at my back. The sound of waves was loud, too loud, almost drowning something else I couldn't place. A rhythmic thump, a faint laugh, a moan carried by the breeze. No, that couldn't be. I told myself I was imagining it. That the sea played tricks on the ears. But the closer I got to the porch, the more the air charged around me. Like stepping into a secret. My hand hovered at the doorknob. I wasn't here to snoop. I wasn't here to invade. I only wanted to know she was safe. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. A breathless sound, a woman's sound, her sound. My chest tightened. I stepped back into the shadow of the house, unsure if I should leave, unsure of what I even wanted. And then the front door opened. My mother stepped out. She wasn't dressed for company. She wasn't even dressed for a beach evening. A loose robe hung off one shoulder, her hair messy, her lips swollen, her cheeks flushed with heat she didn't get from walking. Her eyes widened when she saw me. That expression, shock, guilt, a flicker of fear, told me everything before she ever spoke. I didn't ask for that surprise, sweetheart, she whispered, voice trembling. Why are you here? I swallowed. The truth lodged like a stone in my throat. I wanted to check on you. That's all. Behind her, I heard footsteps. Heavy, slow. A man's silhouette shifted in the dim hallway. My mother's breath hitched. She stepped out quickly and shut the door behind her, as if blocking the world from seeing anything. From seeing him, yet the scent of warm skin and something intimate still clung to the air. Mom, what's going on? I asked. She looked out toward the sea, not at me. Her fingers trembled as she clutched her robe closed. This weekend, it wasn't meant for anyone but me, she whispered. And I wasn't supposed to be found. The waves crashed harder then, as if punctuating a truth neither of us were ready to face. But it was too late. The surprise I never intended to uncover had already begun unraveling. And she wasn't alone in that house. She led me down the steps toward the sand, away from the door, away from the man still standing behind it. She didn't speak at first. She couldn't. The embarrassment had wrapped around her like a second robe. I walked beside her, trying hard not to look at the way her bare feet curled into the sand, trying not to see how shaken she was. She wasn't the type who embarrassed easily. My mother was a force, elegant, composed, sharp when she needed to be. But that night, she was soft. Too soft. Like whatever just happened inside that beach house had stripped away the armor she always wore. Say something, she murmured finally. I exhaled slowly, staring at the dark horizon. I didn't mean to interrupt anything. She gave a small, humorless laugh. You think? Silence washed between us. Behind us, the porch light flickered. The outline of the man shifted again through the frosted glass window. He wasn't coming out, but he wasn't going away either. Mom, who is he? She closed her eyes as if the question stung. Someone who shouldn't matter. But he does. She didn't deny it, didn't try to. The sea breeze lifted her robe enough for her to grab it again, cheeks burning with fresh heat. That's when it hit me, what I'd heard before reaching the porch. The sounds the wind carried. The rhythm, the intimacy. Did you know I'd come today? I asked slowly. No, she whispered. I didn't ask for a surprise, and I certainly didn't expect you. Then why here? Why now? Why him? She wrapped her arms around herself. Because I needed to feel alive again. Even if it was reckless. Mom, I'm not proud of it, she said, voice thin. But I'm not ashamed either. The waves seemed to quiet for a moment, as if eavesdropping. I'm lonely, she admitted, the truth finally spilling out. Your father and we've been strangers for years. Polite strangers. Cold. Predictable. I felt invisible in my own home. So you came here, I murmured. She nodded. And he came with you. He came, for me, she said softly. Her voice wavered on that last word. It wasn't just attraction. It wasn't just thrill. She had been starving for tenderness, and someone finally gave it to her. It wasn't supposed to be complicated, she continued. Just a weekend. Just a breath. Something private. Something only I would know happened. And now I know. She turned to me sharply, eyes full of fear. You cannot tell your father. I won't. Swear it. I swear. She stepped closer and took my hands like she used to when I was a child. Her palms were warm, trembling, smelling faintly of whatever moments she had shared moments before I arrived. I didn't ask for you to show up, she whispered, but maybe it's good you did. Maybe it's time someone knew I'm not the perfect, controlled woman everyone thinks. You're human, I said. That's all. No, she breathed. Tonight, I was more than human. I let myself feel everything I've been denying. She looked over her shoulder toward the house again, and for the first time, curiosity clawed at me. Who was he? What did he look like? What did he mean to her? And why did the thought of him still standing inside send a strange, unfamiliar heat through my own chest? The night deepened. The walls of that beach house hadn't just heard their secrets. They were about to hear mine too. We walked back toward the porch eventually, though my mother hesitated with every step. When we reached the stairs, she held up a hand. Stay here, she whispered. Why? Because he didn't expect anyone. And I need to prepare him. Mom, I'm not a threat. She shook her head. It's not that. It's just, he's younger. That made me blink. Younger. How young? Younger than your father, she clarified quickly. But older than you. That narrowed it to an uncomfortable middle ground that sent a prickle down my spine. Before I could press for more, the front door opened again. The man stepped into the porch light. And everything in me stilled. He wasn't what I expected. Not even close. Broad shoulders, sun-darkened skin, a well-kept beard, and eyes that paused on me with a mixture of caution and curiosity. He wore only loose sweatpants, nothing else, and the marks on his chest, faint scratches, told a story even before anyone spoke. Home anymore. And you think Dad suspects nothing? He doesn't look at me enough to notice, she said bitterly. The truth settled between us like warm fog. She wasn't running toward sin, she was running from emptiness. And Daniel, he had filled that space. When she finally looked up at me, her eyes glistened with something raw and unguarded. I know you're judging me. I'm not, I said. But I'm trying to understand. I only wanted one weekend, she murmured. One where I wasn't invisible. The waves crashed harder as if urging her to continue, but before she could, Daniel spoke from inside. You both should come in. No tension, just honesty. The invitation hung in the air. My mother looked terrified. I looked conflicted. But the night had already crossed lines none of us could step back from. And I followed them inside. Inside, the beach house felt warmer, too warm for the ocean breeze outside. A single lamp lit the room, casting gold shadows over everything. The faint scent of wine, perfume, and something far more intimate lingered. Daniel poured water into 3 glasses and set them on the coffee table. Sit, he said gently. My mother lowered herself onto the sofa. I sat across from her. Daniel remained standing, as if trying to balance the energy in the room. I know this is strange, he began, but I don't want this to feel like I'm intruding. You're not, my mother whispered, eyes down. You are, I corrected softly, but not in the way you think. Daniel nodded. Fair. He sat beside her, not too close, but close enough that she relaxed visibly. I watched the way her shoulders softened, how much lighter she seemed near him. It wasn't lust alone, it was comfort, warmth, recognition, something she hadn't felt in years. I care about her, Daniel said, looking me directly in the eyes. You need to know that. Mom's breath trembled. Daniel, it's true, he insisted. How did this even begin? I asked. Mom finally lifted her gaze to mine. By accident. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't chasing trouble or running from your father. I just fell into a moment I didn't expect. She came here to think, Daniel said. I was already staying nearby that weekend. We met on the beach, just before sunrise. Mom smiled faintly at the memory. We talked, really talked, like two people who remembered what it felt like to be seen. And one conversation turned into another, Daniel continued. Then another. I didn't plan it, neither did she. I rubbed my hands over my face. So this is emotional. It's human, Daniel said firmly. Mom touched Daniel's hand, lightly, cautiously, and the tenderness in that gesture nearly broke me. She wasn't acting reckless. She wasn't confused. She was choosing something she thought she no longer deserved. Affection, connection, life. Still, I asked, what happens now? Mom inhaled deeply. Nothing changes. I still go home tomorrow. I still act like nothing happened. This weekend was for me. It wasn't supposed to touch anyone else's world. And yet here we all are, I murmured. Her eyes glistened. I know. And I'm sorry. Daniel leaned forward. Look, if you think this is something ugly, you're wrong. I'm not using her. I'm not hurting her. I'm not asking her to leave her marriage. That's enough, Mom whispered to him, gripping his wrist. He understands. I did, maybe more than I wanted to. But understanding didn't stop the complicated heat building beneath my ribs. The way Daniel's voice carried. The way my mother glowed near him. The way the house seemed soaked in their shared passion. It was overwhelming. And yet, I couldn't pull myself away. Not when my mother finally exhaled and said the words she had been holding back. I didn't ask for this surprise, but I don't regret it. The night went silent, except for the waves, except for our breathing, except for the truth settling into all of us. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the small guest room, listening to the ocean crash against the shore, listening to the faint murmurs of the house settling, and the muffled echoes of something else. Gentle sounds, intimate sounds, her sounds. I shouldn't have heard them. I shouldn't have been near enough. But the beach house was old, the walls thin, and the night unkind in its honesty. The next morning, sunlight washed the living room in warm gold. I stepped out quietly, expecting discomfort, maybe even regret. But my mother sat at the kitchen counter with a mug of coffee, robe loosely tied, hair still messy, but her smile. Her smile was soft, peaceful, alive. Daniel stood beside her, shirtless, making breakfast like he'd been doing it for months. They looked natural, too natural, a moment stolen from a life that didn't belong to them. Good morning, Mom said gently when she saw me. Morning, Daniel nodded. Coffee. I nodded and took the cup he handed me. We ate in silence for a few minutes, but it wasn't awkward. It was strangely calm, as if the tension from the night before had settled into something clearer, something that didn't need to be fought anymore. Finally, Mom spoke. Last night shouldn't have happened the way it did, she said softly. You weren't supposed to see this part of me. And yet I did. Yes, she whispered, and maybe it's better that you know I'm not a perfect woman. I'm just a woman. Daniel touched her lower back. A small gesture, but it melted her. I looked away. So, what now? Now, she said, we finish breakfast. Daniel leaves in an hour. I go home afterward, and this stays between us. I nodded, but she wasn't done. She stood and walked toward me, placing a hand on my cheek like she used to when I was younger. I didn't ask for that surprise, she murmured. But maybe it forced me to be honest with myself. About what? That I'm still capable of love. Even if it isn't the kind I'm allowed to keep. Daniel watched her with something close to longing. Something deeper than a fling. She turned to him. Thank you, for everything. He nodded, eyes warm. Take care of yourself. When he finally left, bag slung over his shoulder, the sound of the door closing behind him like a soft punctuation, the entire house seemed to exhale. My mother's shoulders sagged. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's over. But it meant something, I said. Yes, she breathed. More than I expected. More than I should admit. We cleaned the kitchen together. Packed our things. And as we locked the beach house behind us, she stood for a long moment staring at the ocean. Her robe fluttered in the wind. Her hair danced around her face. And in that sunlight, she looked less like my mother and more like a woman rediscovering herself after years of forgetting she existed. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. Life gives us surprises we don't ask for, she murmured. Some ruin us, and some remind us we're alive. We drove home separately, and neither of us ever spoke about that weekend again. But I remember everything, every sound, every confession, every moment of truth the beach house forced into the open. My mother didn't ask for that surprise. But in a strange, forbidden way. It gave her back to herself. This story is a fictional, mature-themed narrative created for entertainment, storytelling, and educational purposes. It does not depict real individuals, and all characters, events, and actions are entirely fictional. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Thank you for listening to this powerful anonymous confession. If this story moved you, shocked you, or kept you hooked, make sure to checkmark like the video. Checkmark drop your thoughts in the comments. Checkmark and subscribe for more mature, emotional, and forbidden stories every week. Your support keeps this channel alive. See you in the next episode.